Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis. Welcome to today's video. Today was originally going to be a battle report. Well, an after-action battle report. I can't film battle reports, I've explained why before. But I had a game, and I wanted to give you an after-action report on the game. If you want to, I actually recorded my after-action report while I was walking home. It's a little bit patchy and not very professional, so I wasn't going to upload it as an actual video. If you want to hear my ramblings as I walked home and see how the game went a bit more play-by-play, then let me know and I'll add it into the description as an unlisted link, so as you can check it out, and I'll post it on social media and all of that stuff. So, why this has changed from being a battle report to something else is mainly because I had a chance to do some reading when I got home. So, the game I was playing was 2,000 points. I'll give you a bit of an in-brief in case you don't decide to listen to my transcript or if people don't ask for it. Then, it was a 2,000 point game. I was playing my Farsight bomb, so I had Retaliation Cadre led by Commander Brightsword, the guy with the fusion blades. I had Commander Farsight and his bodyguard, which is Brainstorm, so my Plasma Flamer Shield, Iridium, Onega Gauntlet, all of that fun stuff. He's a tank. I had a Combined Arms detachment that included my Cold Star, two stealth teams, a couple of one-man crisis teams, and they had homing beacons, of course. My commander, my Cold Star, Cordella, she had a stim injector. I don't think she had a shield generator, even though I modeled her with one. I think I just ran out of points for that. And then I had my Razor Shark Strike Fighter. I won't run through the entire composition. I completely forgot to do that when I did the recording as well. But it was basically, I had an anti-infantry squad, an anti-heavy infantry squad, and an anti-tank squad, and then my Riptide and my two broadsides. Long and short of it, I suppose. My opponent was playing a bit of a mix of Imperial stuff. So there was some Astra Militarum, there was some Inquisition, there was a little bit of Space Marine, there was a lot of Cult Mechanicus and a lot of Skitarii were the main two elements. And the game was, well, it could have been really interesting. We're playing Maelstrom of War, which is probably the type of mission I struggle with a little bit more, because if draws don't go my way, then I end up miles behind and having to table. And against this sort of army, I was never going to table, because it had Bullgrins, it had a Nurgle Dooncrawler, it had a Tech Priest Dominus who got a good Warlord trait. It had some, and it had the two Castellan robots as well. It was a tanky force. I was like, I can beat it, but I can't really table it, because I didn't have strength 10. So anyway, the game went really, really well. TLDL, TL too long didn't listen. I won. I won convincingly, because my opponent just drew really badly, didn't score a point, and I'm not going to say I had a god draw, but I had a decent draw. It was kind of like an inverse of a normal game where I draw terribly, my opponent draws reasonably well, and I just get battered. I drew reasonably well, my opponent drew horribly, but even if we'd have just been playing a straight-up game, I feel like I won quite comfortably. I never felt threatened. Like, the most thinking I had to do is, where's everything going to deep strike? That was about it. There was no major thought process I had to go into the game, because on turn 1 I did quite well. I deployed my two one-man crisis teams from the Combined Arms, and we were able to cap a couple of objectives, and I was able to get first blood by killing a transport for some Tempestus Silence command squad. So that was great. I lost Cordella in response, my Cold Star, because I couldn't make an armor save, and she died to the Onega Dooncrawler, which has a lot of shots, but it still shouldn't have killed my commander because there was only one of it. But I kept my stealth teams alive, and that meant fun times when the reserves came in. Everything but Farsight came in. The Razor Shark did, Farsight didn't, because he's always a turn later than everybody else. Comms relay, possibly necessary. Anyway, so all that's great, and I set up to wipe his face. That was the complete plan. I set up one forward stealth team, one back stealth team, just to give the broadside somewhere to land, give the Riptide somewhere to land, and give my crisis suits a really good set-up fire-based position. Brilliantly executed. Well, that sounds like you're being an arrogant idiot. Well set up, and I think well executed. I'm not going to say it was the best game I've ever played, but I think I executed the plan well, and I played off the synergy of my army. And then it all went a bit south. Not in terms of, the game just was really easy from that point, and it was just a cakewalk, and it was really boring. It wasn't that. It's my opponent started cheating. I don't know if they meant to or not. I'm not going to call them out on saying that they were actually cheating deliberately. What I will say is that they were not very up on their army's rules and seemed unwilling to check their codices, I should say. Okay, let me explain. So, Brightsword and his Fusion Blaster accompanying Crisis guy, because he was a one-man Crisis team for my Retaliation card, they just dropped in, perfectly set, and they Fusion Blasted the Omega Doomcrawler. Which, for those of you who know Shitari, or maybe watch my review series from way back, or like a year ago, has a 6+ invulnerable save. My opponent seemed adamant that it was a 5+. And as much as I argued the point, that I'm sure it's a 6, I feel like it's a 6, I eventually just gave it up and said, okay, it's fine, it's a 5. I'm going to kill it anyway, because I've got the Razor Shark at the Riptide and the Broadsides. Oh, I'll kill it. I didn't kill it. It lived on one whole point, and he kept rolling 5s. Now, you might say that's my fault. You might say that's my fault, because I didn't force the issue. But later on, I did force the issue. So in the same turn, he had a unit of Sikaran Infiltrators, who have a 4+ armor save and a 6+ invulnerable save from the Sikaran Battle Plate. He seemed to be under the impression that they all had Refractor Fields. How it works is that Refractor Fields are for the Princeps only, and they're an upgrade. I don't know if he'd taken that upgrade, I didn't look at his list inside out and backwards, but he seemed adamant they had a 5+. I was like, no, I know it's not a 5+, get your Codex, check. Turned out there was a 6+, and I wiped the floor with them. His Tempestus Science Command Squad, the one that had been in the Taurox, he deployed them in a really bad order, and as I started mopping them up with my anti-heavy infantry team, he just started taking random guys. I was like, no, front guy, this guy, then this guy, and so on. It's like, I don't know if they were just inexperienced, bad at the game, or just cheating, but it made the game far less enjoyable, and this has the potential to develop into a rant, so I'm going to try and keep myself calm and try and explain why this is such an issue. Because it didn't stop there. On the next turn, he used his Uncreator Gauntlet, which is a relic that his Dominus had, to fix the Doomcrawler. He rolled a 6, which is regenerate D6, and he says, oh, it's fully healed. So he was on one whole point, you didn't roll. I thought it was just a flat +3, I'd forgotten the ruling, but it was probably going to fully heal, but it didn't check. He seemed to think I had 4 hull points as well. I made him check, and it was 3. And then he fired his Gamma Pistol from his Cybernetica Datasmith, which apparently has 3 shots in his Strength 6 AP2. Hint it doesn't. It's 1-shot Armor Bane. 1-shot Armor Bane? Not 3? No, that's not how it works. And it just went on like that, where I was having to use what I did in my Codex reviews to remember what that army did and how it functioned, just to make sure that I could call out any nonsense. Mostly, it was fine, and I just let it go, but I didn't let it go, but it didn't seem to me that anything was wrong, but I could have missed some stuff. Like, I don't know how Inquisitorial Acolytes work. He had a squad of Inquisitorial Acolytes, all in power armor, with hotshot lasguns. Apparently some of them had fucking storm shields. Excuse my language. I know people don't care about language on the channel, by the way, it's just I do, so, well, I don't, but I do. Different debate, different day. Anyway, so that all happened, and we had to end on turn 3. I actually got a melee kill as well. Brightsword eviscerated a Castellan robot with a fusion blade, which was a fantastic move. But because his Doomcrawler had survived, it nearly killed my Razor Shark. I was lucky it didn't, because I jinked out of the way, but it was on 1 hull point. Because it was alive, because he'd forgotten that it had a 6-up, not a 5-up, and so he cheated. And I think why this bothers me is it didn't make a difference to the outcome of the game. Realistically. Because I still wiped the floor with him. I still stomped his army. But it just felt weird. Like, you should know better. You should know better. So, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and not get angry about it and explain or maybe give a piece of advice. If this applies to both you and your opponents, if you don't know the rule for something, check it. If your opponent asks to see the rule for something because they don't know it, let them check it. If you don't understand the rule for something, and maybe you want some clarification, ask to see it. If you think your opponent is cheating, or is maybe over-exaggerating the power of such a thing, then call them out on it. Say, show me in your codex or in the rulebook, where does it say this happens? If you're right, then that's fine. I admit I made a mistake. I thought you were maybe trying to pull my leg, but okay. But the one thing that I think actually grinds my gears more than even Eldar trickery or people ragging on Tau unnecessarily, I mean, they do deserve it, but they get too much of it. I've talked about that before. Is when you don't know the rules and pretend like you do, and it actually means that you end up, by hook or by crook, cheating. Because it can change a game. Like, what if, for example, in this game, that gamma pistol had made my broadside squad run, because it fired 3 shots instead of 1 and killed one of my broadsides? What if those acolytes had tanked for far, far longer because apparently they had storm shields? What if I'd not caught your tactical casualty removal and made you not take your medic off immediately, and so you had a load of feel no pains? What if this? What if that? It's little things that, while they seem completely innocuous, they add up and they encourage bad habits. And I think that's something that's just as important to call out, is people get into bad habits, particularly if they get away with it. People can get into bad habits. I'm going to fully admit, I used to do it. I think I accidentally said Wazdaka had the ability to run and charge or something. Or like that he could charge on turn 1 in like 5th edition and wrecked a monolith with it. Whatever, I did something. And I know looking back that I was basically cheating. But I know better now. And if someone asks me, okay, how does this system function? Because they don't know all Tau inside out, I'll say, alright, here's how it works. And if they say, that seems a little bit overpowered, it's like, well, here's the proof. I know it is a bit overpowered, I'm fully admitting it's probably a little bit stupid, but here's the proof, and that's the way it's written. And I think that's what people just have to do. We have to try and encourage honesty. And I'm sure 99% of you don't have an issue with this. I'm sure 99% of you play your games legit and have no problems whatsoever. But if you're a new player, or you're playing with a new army, or you're playing against an army you've never faced before, you have to be willing to both admit you don't know everything, and you have to be willing to check that your opponent knows everything. Because there is going to be nothing more infuriating, and I can tell you this now. When I got home from that game, I came in, I went and looked at my Skitarii Codex, and I saw that it had a 6+ invulnerable, and I was actually angry. Even though it made no difference to the outcome of the game, I was genuinely angry that my opponent had, in some regard, cheated. They may not have known, but they seemingly cheated repeatedly, and that annoys me. So, yeah, I think that basically sums it up. If you are someone who maybe thinks, oh, it doesn't matter if I say this thing's got a slightly better save, it's going to die anyway, or, oh, this thing's got an extra shot, or, oh, this thing's got this armor value, or something, and your opponent just genuinely doesn't know, don't. You've been warned. If you're someone who's playing with a new army, be fully aware that you don't know everything. You might think, oh, I think this weapon does this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this weapon does this. If you don't know, check your damn codex. It might take time. I'm fully aware that sometimes games are on a time constraint, but you have to be sure. And while that might be infuriating in like a professional tournament environment, people understand. People have to learn the game somehow. And if that means checking the damn codex every time you come to fire a weapon, then check the damn codex. Same thing with your opponent. If your opponent is using an army you've never seen before, or a gun you've never seen, or they're using some super heavy that you've never faced before, then check its damn rules. Call it out. And say, I don't know how this works. Could you show me its stats, please, so I understand how it works and I can play around it? Not saying, oh, tell me all the ins and outs and tactics of how the thing works. Just say, I've never seen this before. What do its guns do? What do its rules do? What's its stats? All of this stuff, I just want to know. Don't just tell me, oh, it has this effect and just go along with it. You've got to challenge. And if you think your opponent is just leading you on a merry dance, particularly if you know an army, so let's say your opponent is playing orcs and you played orcs for years, and they say, "Oh, these guys have got 4 shots on their gun." It's like, no, they have 3. Don't just back off. You've got to challenge, because if you don't, then your opponent will think, "Oh, I can just get away with this. I'll just keep doing it because everybody's not going to believe me." It's like, you have to put your foot down. I know it sounds like you're being a dick. And if you do it for the sake of doing it, then perhaps you are being a dick. But if you genuinely don't understand a rule or a unit, or you've never seen something before, or you're still learning the game, and this particularly applies to new players when you're in a casual environment just learning the game with your friends, be careful. Check the rules. Make sure you're playing it correctly, because if you start cheating and then you get caught, then there's hell to pay. Because if let's say you play a rule a certain way, you house rule it with your friends, and then you just go into your GW, into a campaign, and say, right, this is what this does, and your opponent knows, and they call you out on it, it looks really bad on you. So, don't do it. Be careful, be honest, and play by the damn rules. And if you don't know how to play by the damn rules, then learn the damn rules. That's the nearest thing to a rant I'm possibly ever going to have on this channel. Or at least the biggest solo rant I'm possibly ever going to have. I'm sorry if that annoys any of you, and if for those of you who play legit and who are careful with the rules, or have maybe taught people how to play the game, and so you've encouraged good habits, then I'm sorry you had to listen to me whining like that. But it had to be said. We have to make sure that any ideas of cheating, any cheating culture, whether it's intended or otherwise, stops. It has to. Because that's not healthy for the game if people just start cheating, even if they don't mean to. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see the entire manuscript of the battle report as I recorded it on my way home, then let me know and I'll add it to the description. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.